morning.
You can stay there.
Good morning. Just got a chance to look at a little bit of the video. I think the big takeaway for me on that video is our ability to, how we look at things. How do we look at things? Some are very cynical. They say, oh, well, it is what it is. But then there's some who see difficulty and say, well, you know, this is a great opportunity to make some change. It's how you look at things. How, you look at a glass, same glass. Some look at it half empty, and some look at it half full. Well, universal, the concept of universal, and I'm not sure how much do you know about the vision, but I heard you talk about the mission and the vision, is to look at it half full as opposed to half empty. Our founder and chairman, Kenny Gamble, wrote a song that really impacted me years ago, and I never knew. It's funny how things happen. It's called People Power. And in that song, it's talking about, power of people, and how if we can come together, there's nothing we can't change. And so that wasn't a really good, successful commercial hit. But the message in the music that Kenny was trying to present really is the foundation for Universal. And what is Universal? Again, Universal is trying to look at the responsibility of man. The responsibility of man because to other men. So what is our responsibility to humanity? Is to sit back and just watch things happen and just say, oh, nothing can be done, and I'll just do my thing and you get yours, or whatever the situation is? Or is it to do something about it? There are three things when you see wrong. One, you can hate it in your heart. But that's the least level, that's the lowest level. But if you feed that in your heart, if you feed it, you talk to yourself, and you communicate to yourself, you allow that anger and that disappointment and that frustration to grow within you. Then the next thing you know, you start to speak out against it. And now you're ratcheting it up a little bit, a different level of responsibility for the problem. You're just not a passive person. You're now moving towards action. Because what speaking out does put you in a position sometimes where it ain't good. You can see something around here at Universal, in the schools that you work in. And you could be in a situation that says, this is not right. But I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to do anything about it. But those who do, take a risk. But the risk is worth it because it's wrong. And wrong is wrong. You can put 10 things together right now and put them against 10 bad things. You put one positive thing next to it, it's easily glaring to see wrong. I was coming in, we were leaving Ken Gamble's office, one of his offices, and there was a light on the second floor. This is a 3-story building. There was a light on the second floor. There was a little lamp, like a night lamp on. So when we was walking out, we said, wait, we left the lights on. But in reality, the lights wasn't on. It was just one little lamp that was on. So on the 3rd floor, I said, I'll go up there, try to save him some time to go up, run up all up those thirds and turn the lights off. So when I got up to the 2nd floor, I realized it was just this one lamp that was piercing the dark. In a way, just this tiny lamp would pierce the light where it seemed like the 2nd, 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, the 1st floor, the lights were on, but it was a small light. This is the power of being right. This is the power of truth. And when it comes, it kills, it knocks out darkness. So when you get in your mind and you see wrong in your heart, feed it. Cultivate it. Nurture it. to talk about it and speak out against it and not be fearful of any consequence. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. But it's not enough to stay there, because this is what Universal's about. It's building the capacity and the infrastructure to change it, to do something about it. You sitting here today, we walked in here 2-3 years ago, you weren't even here. You represent the belief and the concept of Universal, that if we do something, we have an idea in our minds. We're going to change some things, but we're going to talk about those things. But we got to build the infrastructure. We got to build a team. We got to have a strategy. We have to understand what the problem is. We have to have a game plan. We have to have measurable ways to understand, to communicate the plan, to evaluate the success of the plan. It's not enough to hate something in your heart. It's not enough to just to speak out about it, because people who just speak about things and don't do anything about it, we have a name for them. Universal is completing the picture. Sure, we want to hate it. Sure, we want to speak out against it. But most importantly, we want to do something about it. And that's where you come in. That's where the universal vision comes in. There's another song that kind of sticks in my mind. When I was walking in here, it came to me and I said to myself, and another song that Gamble Huff produced, where two talented writers, McFadden and Whitehead, actually wrote, and that was Ain't No Stopping Us Now. You gotta listen to that music, and then you understand Universal. You gotta listen to the message in the music, the social message in the music. That song right now is played by every sporting team or every campaign on the victorious side, not the losing side, but the victorious side. Because to be successful, you have to go through a struggle. It's a process. If you're looking for success, you gotta earn it. You gotta work for it. You gotta want it. But you gotta be thinking. Because sometimes the success that you're looking for is measured against the challenge. And the challenge in the black community is awesome. It's real. It's not manufactured. It's real, and you know it, you see it every day. You see the symptoms of it. Some of you really don't know, and you treat the symptoms, but in reality, you don't know the root cause. And that's fine, but you gotta get to a point where if you wanna change things, you're gonna have to push yourself. If you wanna be successful, you're gonna have to earn it. You're gonna push yourself, you're gonna put yourself in a position to know exactly what you're dealing with, what you're up against. And I got a concept called organized for success. You gotta be organized. The schools, you gotta be organized. From the principal down, you have to be organized. By grades, you gotta be organized. By subject, you gotta be organized. Because it's just not enough to stay inside this building and be successful. Successful for Universal is much more bigger than that. Because we know the problem is bigger than that. So, going back to the TED conversation and how we view, there's fundamentals. So somebody asked me, well, how did you get the name Universal? Well, I remember walking one day, was walking down the street, was pointing to different properties, and we said, at that time, Kenny Gamble and his wife had a school called Universal Institute. It wasn't a school, it was like a rites of passage for women, young girls. And they were running this program. But then they had another organization he was working with called the Universal Community of Truth. And there was a bunch of pastors working together in the neighborhood trying to rebuild the neighborhood, or just come together to try to address the issues in the neighborhood. But then you look at the liner notes of Kenny Gamble's songs, and it became very obvious that Universal, these kind of words were very, very spiritual in nature. They weren't just names that we just grabbed from somewhere. There was a spiritual connection to them. There are other words like one. We use that word constantly. One world, one people, one creator, one creation, and the power of one. So we took the word universal. So I said, let's say we're gonna do some housing. Let's say universal community home. So that's how universal was born. But when we started to now to reflect on what the word means, universal, we asked ourselves a question. And I had worked for 20 years in a company called Sun Oil, and I did a lot of transportation. I used to do chartering ships all around the world, and all the ships had flags. So you have Nigerian flags, you have a crew, all Nigerians. You have a German flag, you have a crew, all Germans. You have a Korean flag, and on and on and on. And literally, a crew of all Koreans. So every time they would dock, I would be the first one they would meet. And they would bolt off this ship, and there were probably about a wall of just phones at the dock. At every dock, and this is not uncommon. This is like every dock. So when they were both, because they'd be going like 4 or 5 months, and then they go home. And this is the routine. They off a month, they go back 4 months, or something like that. So when they get off the ship, they would literally bolt to these phones. So I was watching this, and I got a chance to navigate through the languages. And I find out there was something common about everybody. It's universal. Everybody universally is seeking peace. Everybody universally wants to have a secure place to live out their dreams. Everybody universally wants to protect their children and want to see their children do better than they do. They want to create a womb, an environment for their children so their children can grow. Because life is short. We're not going to be here long. I mean, even 92, she referred to her mother being 92. 92 is not a long time. It might sound like a long time, but it's not. But we don't live here long. And so we always prepare for the next generation, and that's universal. But when you look at the black community, specifically in America, it's been disrupted. Absolutely disrupted. It started in a disruption, and it's still a disruption. And one of the biggest keys to balance that out is education. One of the biggest tools, let me give you a secret. I'm going to share it with you. It's not education, the mechanics of education. It's the concept of education. Because I dropped out in 9th grade. I'd never seen January of 9th grade. So I lived high school experience through all my children. And they don't know, they're like, well, why is Dad so into this high school thing? Dad is living through, Dad is seeing high school through you. Because I never seen it. But I was a great student. Well, I, like many of the young people, I didn't have parent guidance. I was on my own. I was making my own decisions. And I said it wasn't necessary. Little crew go this way. I go that way one day. Next day I go that way 2 days. Next day I go 3 days. And next thing you know, I'm out of school. And this is how easy it happens. It's disruptive. When family life is messed up, it's disruptive for children. They're not in a stable environment. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with disruption. And in the black community right now, the ideal family structure is broken. So when the communities, you see the symptoms of the community out of position, is because the family life is out of position. And when you see the family life out of position, is because the black man is out of position. And when you see the continuum, you look at the pipeline, you see this is not going to change because we see more of our young girls achieving at a higher clip than our young boys. And we see the peer pressures by young boys, and the rites of passage are not taking place. And the rites of passage are doing what they're doing today, what it did to me, but doing today at a higher level than it did with me. Because I was supposed to graduate in '74. So, I say all to say this. If we want success, if we want to understand the mission of Universal, we just got to look at what is universally understood. What is universal? What are the universal principles of life? But again, going back to the original concept, we got to do something about it. We have to have people power. You represent people power. The power of the people. You weren't here 2 years ago. When I came in this building 2 years ago, you wouldn't even believe this building. You wouldn't even believe it was here. Now, we done changed the purpose of this building, because this building at one point was an education machine. And then it became a warehouse for anything and everything. And now we've turned it back to an education machine. Yeah, you can clap. But did we fall out of the bed to do that? Did that happen by accident? Was that a miracle? Somebody walk up and say, "Here, take this"? No. It was a lot of work. It was a whole lot of work. But as the song says, ain't no stopping us now. You're evidence of that. We just getting started. We just getting cooking. Because the universal plan, while we use the core, the foundation, the principal tent, the principal pillar in the tent is education, we're going to spread that out. And we're going to try to fix community life in the black community. In order for us to fix community life in the black community, we got to fix families. We got to support the rebuilding, the restructuring of families. In order for us to restructure and support the rebuilding of families, we have to have a special focus on our men. And so we've adopted a number of different programs. You'll see more of them as they come. You'll see, but you'll figure out, when you see this picture being painted, you'll know exactly where the eyes are, where the ears are, where the nose is. You'll see the reflection, you'll see the skin color, you'll see all the things now that come into place, because we're painting this picture. Because we're going to create this movement. It's not good enough to be angry about the problems. Let that anger, turn that anger and fuel that anger into action. And that's what Universal is about, action. How do we do it? So I would hope that you guys are working together, are meeting, are communicating, are strategizing to be the best. Because when you do your job, it allows us to do the other things. Minister Farrakhan is calling for a Justice of All March on October 10th. It's a commemoration of 20 years of the Million Man March. And there's a lot of, oh, no, we shouldn't do it, or, March didn't do anything before, why are we doing it? We don't need another march, yada, yada, yada. And you name it, it's a whole bunch of discussion. So I was probably in that camp as well, and I was like, you know what, I've even written a number of different times, I've said, after the marches, after the rallies, after the vigils, what's next? Because that's what I'm in. I'm into what's next? What happens tomorrow? What happens the next day? So I say that to say that, but it's aligned with people power. Justice or else. There is nothing better, no bigger cry, and no bigger righting of wrong than discuss justice. That's what fuels us, that's what motivates us. The foundation of life is about justice. We understand that coming into this world, there's a justice set up in everything that we do. But the children that come in this school, and many other schools, specifically in the black community, that's been disrupted. There's no guarantee, there's no foundation for justice because it doesn't exist. You can walk out your door tomorrow and get your head blown off. You can do everything right and still be wrong. So justice is the foundation for everything we do. So justice or else, there's no else. It's only justice. And Dr. Martin Luther King says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Why? It's that important. So education is not about not just the reading, the writing, the arithmetic. It's about the values we transfer to our people. It's about the concepts that we transfer. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk, like she said on the screen. It's about apologizing when you're wrong. It's about coming to the table understanding or declaring, I don't have all the answers, but I'm prepared to work on them. We don't have all the answers that's going to help our community, but we're prepared to one step at a time. We're prepared to work on it on a day-to-day basis. And I can tell you every meeting that you see that Penny's in, she's at 1,000 other meetings. And every meeting that you see me in, I'm in 1,000 other meetings trying to figure this thing out. I don't have the answers, but I understand and recognize the answer lies in the people. That's why it's called people power. I'm hoping and praying that you get the message, you buy into the vision, you support Universal, and if you don't, you just politely leave. You politely leave. People think that Universal is some kind of magic. No, Universal is you. As being on the right side of whatever the situation is. Going back to the very, very simple thing that I said earlier. When you start talking about justice or else, the foundation of justice or else establish what is right and what is wrong. And what is right and what is wrong is like night and day. And wrong could be wrong as I don't know what, but you can take that little lamp with a little bit of light and blow out darkness. That's the nature of it. A little light can blow out darkness. Truth can blow out ignorance and falsehood, no matter where it's at. So that's what Universal is. I'm hoping and praying that you gotta have a successful year. We move this thing further along. You give us the credibility to do things outside of the community that we need to do and organize in our community. Build housing, create opportunity, economic opportunities, going to create jobs for young people, specifically our men. We can't talk about getting off the corner and stop selling drugs when you don't have any alternative. You can't talk about, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. There's no pathway to what we're talking about. That's, again, going from just talking about something to doing something about it. So I'll leave you with this. Universal is about three things that are very critical to us that we think that we're going to be able to manage our way to the next 6 months. Next 6 months leads into the next year. The next year, I can't even plan outside maybe a year. Is that volatile? But education, grow education, and you're a part of that education solution. But we got to extend it. We got to make education hip and cool, and education attainable for not only for our young kids, but for their parents and for their schools. So we got to expand and widen the breadth of education. Economics. We use these schools and look at these schools as a catalyst for economic development. So we're looking now in Green Bay area and Lee. This is a different, unique community. So it's really kind of like it looked like a suburban, rural kind of community here. So it's really pretty much physically intact. I don't know what's going inside the homes, but it looks physically intact. And usually when you can see intact, usually you can see things or problems in the home when you look at the community, physically. So when you see the physical community all bad, you can only imagine what's going on inside the homes. But we use the schools as a catalyst for economic development, so we're going to be doing a lot of housing development, we're going to be doing a lot of economic development, or just creating energy, so at the end of the day, we create contract opportunities and job opportunities. And already we have a number of different people, contractors who are working with us, subcontractors who are working with us, construction contractors, consultants, you name it. It's just an energy, I call it from dust to industry, from nothing to something. And you can do that with economics, and there's a number of different ways we're creating economic energy as a catalyst to create enough energy that people can feed off and build on. And last but not least is organizing, community organizing, at all levels. What we see is problems in communities. We see communities that are unorganized, totally. There's no leadership. And organizing means there's leadership. There's some direction. There's a game plan. And right now we see in many of these communities there's no leadership, there's no organization. And I can take that, I can ramp that up in different levels. I can look at it from the city perspective. I can look at it from a national perspective. I can look at it from a government perspective. I can look at every different business sector and see that those sectors are working, maybe they're working, but they're not working in conjunction to the problems facing the community because there's no organization. So organizing, organizing, organizing. So those are the three areas, but what gives us credibility will allow us to go further and further into those other two areas. Even expanding our education is how well you guys do. If you guys do well, it'll give us the door, it'll open the door up. Even though the door is like, we got our foot in the door, they got the door shut. But we just got enough to keep our foot in the door to keep the door from completely being shut. The more work we do, the more we can open that door. As we open that door, then we can do more. We can do more. But what keeps that foot in the door, what's allow us to open that door and expand that door is what you do, guys, on a day-to-day basis. We're taking what you're doing and we're leveraging what you're doing to get a bigger voice. Not just to say we're going to come in here every day and just close my eyes to what's going on outside. No. Remember, we're going to feed in our heart. What's wrong? Justice or else. We have to prepare for getting justice, and we have to do it with our own abilities, our human abilities. There's no angels, there's no Martians, there's nothing going to come in and change the condition of human beings but human beings, but people. So Universal's about doing that. And I love me some Miss Nixon, Dr. Nixon. She's one jazzy lady. And look, and she said, don't let them high heels fool you. That's my partner. Because she's given me the ability now to do the things that I want to do. And that's those other things. How do we build economics? How do we organize our community? How do we create a voice for change? How do we create a voice for creating justice? You can't even imagine, for those who have lived, and some of us who have some removed so far away from the problem, they have no idea what's going on. But I will never remove myself from the problem. I will get thoroughly involved in the problem so that I won't lose the sensitivity. I won't lose what's in my heart to hate injustice. I will never do that. And I will never stop speaking out about it. As I've gotten older and wiser, I know now it's not just about talking about it, it's about doing something about it. And that's what Universal is about. Thank you so much and have a great day.